Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 23 of the Never Split Up podcast. My name's Nolan. I'm here with Anthony, and this week we have a very special episode. How you doing today, Anthony?
I'm good. How's it going?
Doing good, doing good. Do you want to announce what we're doing this week and bring in our special guest? This is our first special guest episode.
Yeah, so this is a cool episode. We are covering the 2000 supernatural horror suspense thriller What Lies Beneath, and we are bringing in my sister, Justyna, to guest on this episode because she says she wanted to cover this movie. So this is our first guest episode. It'll be very cool.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's bring her in. How you doing, Justyna?
I am good. How are you guys? I'm excited to be here.
Yep. Doing good,
oh, and if I say Peen throughout this episode, viewers, it's because I call her Peen. That's my nickname. So don't be like, what the hell is he on? That's just what I call her.
Yeah.
I'm sure Nolan will do it too. So
yeah. As our viewers know, the listeners know, me and Ant kind of grew up together. So I spent a lot of time at Ant's house. So I just picked up the nickname too. So Peen, aka Justyna, has joined us. You picked out this movie, right, Peen? This movie is pretty important to you.
yeah, so I picked it out. I think I can kind of speak for both Anthony and I that it stuck with us through our childhood. I was only 5 when it was released, and certain scenes, I'll say, really stuck with me and have, I think, molded me into the anxious human being that I am today. So
cool. Now, was
a very
this
tension-filled movie?
Give us a little bit of about background about you. I know we obviously know why you're into horror. I mean, we have your brother on the podcast, but is this What Lies Beneath like one of your earliest memories of horror, or when you say it stuck with you, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it stuck with me because my favorite genre under horror, I would say, is supernatural, more suspense and paranormal all in one, and that's what I feel like kind of molded me into my favorite genre. But what I will say, like Anthony has said in multiple episodes, our grandpa is the one that got us into horror, and Anthony has molded me into liking all forms of genres, and he kind of is able to explain and educate me on reasons behind certain things in these movies, because sometimes I don't get that stuff. So
And she still loves Halloween and Scream. Don't worry, guys.
yeah, well, I'll say Halloween is my number one, like, all time. But what I will
you
say,
and Nolan are on the same page.
yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Let's not get into another heated Scream debate, shall we? We'll save that.
Save that for
time.
Scream 2.
Maybe she can come on for one of the Scream sequels. Yeah.
What I will say regarding Scream, because I did listen to that one, I'm not allowed to listen or watch to any of your podcast episodes that have to do with movies that I haven't seen. But I watched all of the Scream ones, and Nolan, I do agree with you and Jackie about Scream 2.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
But say
so
the
Scream
second
2
part
is
of that,
not up
you
there
do
on your
love-
ranking either.
But what movie do you love
I
in the
don't
Scream
know.
franchise?
Oh, 3.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Okay. I respect that.
She texted me.
I thought I was alone in
I
that.
agree with Nolan. I don't. She's like, Scream 3 is better than Scream 2. I'm like, what?
Yeah. It's
I'm like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah. Cool.
Oh,
Have you seen
we'll
Scream
save
6?
no.
Oh,
No.
okay.
So I'm gonna have the
Interesting,
family
yeah.
over for a family night once that comes out, either on
Yeah.
Paramount Plus or Blu-ray, to
Yeah.
catch them up on that.
Awesome.
But this week, What Lies Beneath.
Yeah. Why don't we just get right into it? Do you want to go over the synopsis and stuff?
Yeah,
And
I'll give a
the
little
small
synopsis.
cast? Yeah.
Yes, the small cast. So I'm gonna go to IMDb to give their typical little, log line. The wife of a university research scientist believes that her lakeside Vermont home is haunted by a ghost, or that she is losing her mind. Ooh, that's a good. I like that synopsis. It doesn't give anything away. It's directed by Robert Zemeckis. Everyone knows him from Back to the Future, Forrest Gump. Castaway. He's a Tom Hanks guy. In my opinion, I think in recent years he really hasn't had much success. I don't think his career has been well in the recent years, but I do think his last great movie is this movie. So yeah, he's our director. It was a big budget for a horror thriller. It has, it had a hefty budget because you have Harrison Ford, Michelle Pfeiffer, and it's a beautiful looking movie. I mean, very well made. So yeah, it cost $100 million to make this thing, which is crazy. But
Wow.
did make $300 million. So again, worth it. Horror always kills it. Yeah. So our main cast is Michelle Pfeiffer. She's the lead. She's Claire Spencer. We have her husband, played by Harrison Ford. Norman Spencer. I know Nolan. You'll have Harrison from Star Wars. We have anyone who likes horror, I'm sure, has watched Dexter. So we have James Raymar. He's the neighbor. We also have Miranda Otto, who plays his wife. Is she Lord of the Rings, Nolan? I think she might be a Lord of the Rings girl. Rings. So that's another.
AON. My favorite trilogy.
And then we have I mean, we're gonna do spoilers, but there's a supernatural aspect to this movie. So we have Amber Valletta, who plays Mary Elizabeth Frank, and she's a very important aspect to this movie. So yeah, small cast, but it's contained, but it's also kind of like grand at the same time. So I do appreciate that about this. But yeah, it came out in 2000, and it was a pretty big deal when it came out. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Cool. Why don't we start with you, because you just made before I forget, what do you mean by small but grand? What do you want to?
So like, I mean small as in like it's not like, you know, in a Scream movie you have like all these characters. You're following like literally pretty much the wife, Michelle Pfeiffer, Claire, throughout the entire movie. It's really her story. But there's something about the movie, you can tell there's like a lot of money put into it, and there's like extravagant scenes, and it's not like it wasn't made for $500,000 $1 million. You know what I mean? You can tell that they're like first of all, the house, the Vermont lakeside, it looks beautiful. It's gorgeous. You can just tell there was a lot of care put into this, and kudos to the studio for putting this amount of money behind, a horror movie, a supernatural horror movie, when, sometimes $100 million movies are the big superhero movies these days. So
yeah,
kudos to them.
Well, I would also say for that time, to get those two bigwig actors and one for the two main roles, you would have to at least have a decent script and a decent, budget to get them in, right? So
yeah, they got paid. They definitely got paid.
Yeah.
And it's not like today where even the A-listers are like, can we be in horror movies now? Horror movies are the end. Those were still the days where like horror was like frowned upon for an A-lister to be in. And we got these two megastars, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll go first with my overall thoughts, get them out of the way. I'll give a disclaimer. This isn't I don't even know how to describe this. Maybe you can help me, Ant. This isn't my favorite subgenre.
I know exactly what to say.
In terms of like the whole mystery thriller, who did the crime? Is it the husband? Is it the neighbor? And we'll get into spoilers, so this is spoiler warning for anyone who hasn't watched the movie. But Jackie likes these movies a lot, and Jackie just watched the movie with me today. I watched it last week for the episode, and then watched it with her today. She had never seen the movie, and she liked it. She liked it a lot. I was like, Jackie, I think you'll like this movie, because she likes these types of movies. But they're not my favorite. A more recent example is The Night House. It's a great movie, but I just can't really love it because I don't love that subgenre, but it's a fantastic movie regardless. But so I don't really my score probably won't be as high as you guys, but I do appreciate how well it looks. The acting, Michelle Pfeiffer is incredible. She really, I mean, like you said, it's so contained, so it's mostly her POV. I do like some techniques that they do real quick. It isn't her POV until it switches for about like a half hour of the movie, when it goes to Norman Spencer's POV, Harrison Ford, towards the end of the movie, like right before the climax. And I like that subtle technique that they do, because it kind of puts your mind at ease a little bit about his character, if that makes sense. Because you're now through his at least it did for me, because now you're in through his POV, so you're like, oh wow, he's actually trying to help his wife, and he's trying to investigate this and stuff. So it was a subtle little technique that I liked. Oh yeah, well, that's always in the back of your mind with these types of movies. And maybe that's why I don't love these types of movies, because you're always thinking about that. So it's really hard to just like sit back and really just enjoy the movie, because you're trying to crack the code at all times. And maybe I don't like those mental gymnastics when watching a movie. I don't know. But yeah, why don't we go? Who wants to go next?
I just want to comment. I'll comment on Nolan really quick because I actually, when I was watching the movie, I was thinking about you. And I wrote in my notes. I know that's weird,
Oh, no.
but I wrote in my notes, and because I remember on our villains episode when I brought up Norman Bates for Psycho, you said, to my surprise, that you weren't a big Hitchcock guy, and this is a very Hitchcockian style movie. So I kind of had the feeling that it wasn't going to be as up your alley as ours, because it's a straightforward, almost classical structure where you have the suspense, the build up, the tension, the mystery, and the reveal. So it's very kind of straightforward to build up, but it's very Hitchcock. So I had a feeling that it wasn't going to be as up your alley from what you said on that episode, because I was surprised that you weren't a huge Hitchcock guy. So that's what I just wanted to comment on your. I had a feeling. So yeah.
Okay.
So Peen, what's your thoughts on the movie overall?
Well, my overall thoughts when I originally watched it, which was 2000. You would say we watched it for the first time in 2000.
Yeah, either
right?
2000 or 2001 when it came out on VHS back in the day, guys.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think overall it stood out to me because I feel like our family, just in general, we're very paranormal in a way that we listen to things that are happening in our house, whether it be the lights flickering. So we already kind of just are bred into that kind of thought process. But then watching the movie, what stuck out to me is not only that, but also just the dramatic sequences that have to do with her, Michelle Pfeiffer, Claire, figuring out that her husband is who he is. The bathtub scene, obviously, I feel like stuck out to me. That I think that's why I'm claustrophobic. I don't like being in bathtubs, whatever. But overall thought process now was about 4 years ago, I met my now fiance, and the first movie we ever watched together, I begged him to watch What Lies Beneath, unknowing I had no idea that he hated scary movies or hated any suspenseful movies, but he said, sure, why not? I like this girl, so let me pretend to like this movie. And he said, just so you know, I'm not really into these movies. We get to the MEF scene on the computer, and I look at him, and he's not doing too well. He's white and pale. And to your point, Nolan, he does not like the mental gymnastics. So then I have learned to never watch a scary movie with him again. And to this day, we have not.
Kills me. Kills me.
Wow.
Kills
me.
Yeah.
Kills me.
Yeah, that's surprised he's accepted into the family.
I tricked him a couple times. I made him watch The Lodge. We'll get to that on a different day.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
So, yeah, he doesn't, whenever we put movies on at our parents' house, he just goes into our kitchen, essentially.
Plays with the dogs, yeah.
Yes.
That's great.
But yeah, how about you, Ant?
Okay, so I vividly remember the first time that we saw this, because I remember I was on fittingly, I was on my Psycho kick, so I was making mom and dad rent the Psycho movies for me. So I got through Psycho 2, and I was like, oh, we gotta watch Psycho 3, So I remember going to the video store, and they were like, we'll get Psycho 3, but there's this new movie that just came out on VHS called What Lies Beneath, and it had a lot of hype. They're like, I guarantee this movie will kind of be a little freakier than, you're not your typical, but kind of like your typical slasher. I'm like, all right, we'll watch both. So I remember watching Psycho 3, I'm like, this is fucking awesome. It's an actual, I don't know if you guys seen Psycho 3, but it's a full-on slasher movie. It's awesome. But then I watched What Lies Beneath, I'm like, oh, this is like a freaky, suspenseful, mystery. And I remember leaving What Lies Beneath and thinking about it for days, rather than just watching Psycho 3 and being like, oh, that was a fun movie. So I guess it must have been recency bias, but I pulled out my 5th grade yearbook.
What the hell?
And if you read under favorite movie, it says What Lies Beneath. So this movie definitely had a huge impact on me the first time I saw it.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so I fucking love this movie, man. It is my favorite horror mixed with suspense supernatural thriller of all time. I think Michelle Pfeiffer, it made me literally fall in love with her. I think it's her best performance, along with obviously Catwoman and Batman Returns. I think she should have been nominated for awards. Yeah, this is an all-timer movie for me. I think the mystery is awesome. I think, like you said, Anthony, your fiance, he was just couldn't even handle the suspense and the build-up and the tension. So I think this movie did that expertly. And there's one scene that literally gets me still to this day when she's in the tub and she's after she's paralyzed and she can't get out and she's drowning. I'm like, this
hard
is
to
my
get through.
worst nightmare. This is my worst nightmare. And
Yeah.
it gets me every time. Peen mentioned the tub scene when she looks over and sees the ghost. And the scene that actually didn't forget, but it still gets me to jump, is when Harrison Ford, when he's going to take the necklace off her and he tilts her head back and the face comes up. That's a amazing jump scare. Amazing. Yeah, I'm in love with this movie. It's an all-timer for me. So yeah, I'm very excited to talk about this one.
Yeah, and I could definitely see why you say that, because this movie is so good at all of that stuff. It's got the paranormal stuff. It's got the PTSD stuff. It's got the did the husband do something stuff. Right. It's got the mysterious neighbors. I think of the first movie, like, when she's with the binoculars. I always think of my guilty pleasure movie, Disturbia. I love Disturbia.
Yes,
so I was
which is also like a Rear Window throwback.
Yeah. So it's got all of that in one, and it blends it so awesomely, I guess, and it's so perfect. But it's just not my favorite subgenre. But I can see why people who love this type of, I guess, Hitchcockian style movie, you would describe it, Ant?
Right. Yeah, 100%. Like a typical Hitchcock.
So maybe that's a better way to describe it. Yeah, I could see why this is like number one for a lot of people. Yeah.
What I will say too is, I think the reason why, like, my fiance, for example, I think the reason why he was so freaked out is because kind of what you were saying, Nolan, it kind of blends all of those different topics into one. Like, did the husband have an affair? Am I going crazy as the wife, overthinking it? The creepy neighbors that I'm thinking there's something going on there. It's more realistic in those aspects, but then they kind of twist it into a supernatural format as well, which makes it even more creepy, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and a lot of times with these movies, I feel like the supernatural is more prevalent in the first half of the movie, and then it fades away, but it's there throughout, and it's obviously there at the end, and it's you're still questioning it, but it always proves itself throughout the movie, and I like that. That's a cool little touch.
And this also does female empowerment without throwing it in your face. It's so subtle, but you can tell that's literally the theme. Like, obviously this dude is gaslighting his wife, throughout the whole movie, but it's not like spelled out to us. It's just like it's just a concept of the movie. So like, if this was made in 2023, there'd literally be someone saying, yay, females, bad husband. It's not like that. You know what I mean? It was very subtle, which, again, as last week's episode, we talked about us. I'm very much a fan of, don't throw it in my face. Just, have it be part of the story, like, naturally. And that, I think this movie did that very well. Yeah. And I looked at the critics' reviews, which is like, again, they did, some of them loved it, some of it didn't. I think the main takeaway from critics were like, they're like, all right, we've seen this before. I guess if you want to ding the movie, it's not something that hasn't been done before, but I do think that, credit to Robert Zemeckis, it hasn't been done on the, everything that's done in this movie is done at an expert level. There might be cliches, but he just, I don't hate this term, but he elevates it to be so good. It's just, he's really great director, and the acting's great. It's just never been done on this level, in my opinion. So yeah, I love it.
So would you say that this is the first movie, though, that it's more taken on to a paranormal aspect of it, where like the ghost is warning the wife? Because I was going to say The Messengers, stuff like that.
That's also a remake to The Messengers. Yeah. No, but it's clever. Yeah, I can't think off the top of my head what came before this, but yeah, it's a clever twist, because you don't know if the ghost is bad, going to hurt her or help her, until the end, obviously. And you don't know if he really just had an affair. I mean, this is spoilers, right? We're in spoilers?
Yeah.
Okay, you don't know if he just had an affair with her and, something happened, or you don't know if you don't know till he killed her until the end, really. You can question it the whole movie, but the whole movie you knew this guy was sleeping around, obviously. You had to know. But you don't know, but the big reveal that he actually, killed her until the end. So I just think he gives us a lot of questions, and that's what maybe also had Anthony on his edge, because the whole movie you're waiting to find out the answers. So it's I'm anxious, and I've seen the movie a bunch of times. So I'm anxious every time I watch it. So again, I think it was done expertly. I think if you're a fan of horror, suspense, mysteries, even if you like a good supernatural mystery, I don't really think that you can go wrong with this one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think at least check it out if you are a fan of horror and mystery. I would say 100%.
And just real quick before we dive into the movie, shout out to Harrison Ford, my boy Harrison Ford. I mean, we're going to be talking about Michelle Pfeiffer, rightfully so, but he did a great job too as Norman Spencer. Especially his switch at the end to bad guy was really cool, and he's got some acting chops in this movie too. So
he does.
Shout out.
He doesn't get enough credit.
Yeah.
He's always like the typical block, on the Star Wars Indiana Jones, but he's a good actor. He's
yeah,
a really good actor.
I remember hating him after this movie for the rest of my life.
So he did his job. Yeah, he did his job well in this movie. He did his job well.
Yeah. Yes, he
All right,
did.
awesome. So let's dive in. I guess I'll start it by opening it up to you guys. How do you feel overall about, we talked a little bit before we started recording, but I want to get your input on Claire's character in general. Is she a smart character? Do you look at her as like a final girl? Is she, do you root for her throughout the movie? Like, how do you feel overall about her character and the choices that she made throughout the movie?
I 100% sympathize with her from scene one. And I love how the director, because when her daughter, the beginning of the movie, she's already on edge because her daughter's leaving for college. And I love the scene when they're packing up the car and the daughter's like, are you going to be okay? We don't know about the accident the year before yet. We just like, oh, she's going to ask her if you're going to be okay, then I'm leaving you. But there's more behind that. And then I love how Michelle Pfeiffer, she responds, she's like, yeah, like, I'll be fine. I'll be okay. I'll do it. But you don't know that there's more behind that yet. But yeah, I think she's a smart character. And I love that by the end of the movie, she's complicated because she doesn't remember a lot because of the accident, obviously. It shows she's also has this trauma buried from the year before in her head. But it takes her the length of this movie to realize and remember what's actually going on. And I think that, yeah, I'm rooting. I don't call her a final girl because I don't really call anyone in a supernatural horror movie a final girl. But I think she's a great horror protagonist, and I'm literally rooting for her every step of the way. And anyone who sets her back, I'm like, oh, they gotta fucking go. They gotta kill him. Yeah, I love her in this movie. I think she's literally amazing. I literally fell in love with her, especially in that scene with the red dress and the apple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love her.
Jesus Christ. But I agree with you. I wouldn't call her a final girl, but I think anyone could probably sympathize, especially just as a female. I'm sure someone has gone through their lives thinking that they're crazy, overthinking things. And I wouldn't call her smart in all of her decisions, but I would understand why she made some of those decisions within the movie. I mean, she's a mom with her daughter leaving her, PTSD from the accident, going crazy from figuring out who her husband truly is and who that girl is that keeps coming up. So, I mean, I would probably do the same stuff that she did if I were in her situation. So yeah, I agree. I think she's a really good protagonist to have in the movie, but not final girl and not 100% smart, I would say.
And on top of everyone, well, especially Harrison Ford, Spencer, he's literally, like I said, he's gaslighting her the entire movie and telling her, like, everything she's saying isn't true. When he knows in the back of his head some of the stuff she's bringing up with the MEF and certain things,
it adds up.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's literally being told the whole movie, you're making this up, you're going crazy, when in reality she's remembering what happened.
Yeah.
So
insane. And I love that too, because most of the movie he is trying to downplay everything and I guess gaslight her, but he realizes towards the end, when I say it's the same part where we switch to his POV, I think, that it's not working. So he flips it and tries to like believe her that it's all happening and that the ghost is real. And he thinks that by telling her that he believes her and burning the lock of hair, that it'll just kind of put everything, because he wants this episode to end as soon as possible, because we know why he doesn't want her to remember the details of what happened before the accident. So, he's trying to like, how can I get this woman to like get off of this subject as fast as possible? And he realized gaslighting wasn't going to work. So he's like, all right, let me try to gaslight her in another way by saying, oh, I believe you. Let's get rid of this spirit. And hopefully it goes away. So yeah, it's really, really cool in that regard too. But I like her too. Why don't we talk about the beginning of the movie? Because the whole first act, it's like the whole, like there's something wrong with the neighbors going on. You know,
I love that. I love
yeah. I always think of the Burbs when I when I see like beginnings of this movie. Jackie hasn't seen the Burbs. I'm like dying to like get her to watch it. Have you ever seen that?
I mean, yes, of course, Tom Hanks.
I haven't.
No, it's a great comedy. Yeah, it's a great one.
It also brings back, you know, Disturbia and, like you said, Rear Window from
yeah.
before, very those vibes. Even though Disturbia came out after this, but yes.
This is my I wanted to talk about this part of the movie because this is where I have the most gripes with Claire, and I think she fucks up the most.
Is she too nosy, Nolan? Is she too nosy?
No, I don't. I mean, no, I think she's justified in all of that stuff, but I think, and maybe you can speak on this as a woman's perspective, you know, because I'm a male, but she doesn't have enough confidence in herself and what she saw and what she, you know, she never calls the cops on any of this stuff. That's super sketchy. Like, you know, seeing that woman in the water and then seeing the body bag in the trunk, like all that stuff. Like, we could just talk about all that stuff right now because it's a lot, and she just lets Norman kind of talk her down, and I'm like, wait, no, like, you know, yeah, go ahead.
But it's funny that the person she would be more, I think, active if Norman wasn't saying, you know, don't worry about it. You know, they're a typical married couple. They have issues. And it's funny that the person who is downplaying the maybe violence is the one who has caused the most violence throughout this entire story. Mm-hmm.
That's what happens in real life, though.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I mean, I don't know. I would, if I were her, I probably would call the cops if I've seen certain things. However, we don't know. This is my issue with movies because we don't know what it was like before the movie started, in a way. Like, how did he actually treat her when she had certain, you know, concerns with other people in their lives? Did he downplay it then? So she's probably just a little bit less confident because of that. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely say from a woman's perspective, it's easy to not feel confident, I guess, when you have a husband who is the way he is. Yeah, I don't know. I still would call the cops, though. Especially if I saw a body go into the car.
But it's also hard to say you would do something until you're in that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because the movie makes it look on purpose that he's putting a body. I mean, it's raining at night and it's creepy. It looks like a body bag he's putting in the trunk. I love the scene when she's doing the TV dinner when she's spying. I'm obsessed with that scene when he takes like the wine out of her like new neighbor gift and throws it, and she This is so Rear Window when she's like spying, and then he eventually like pops out in the window. I get anxious in that scene when you see the footprints walking to the house, and it's eventually just Spencer, her husband. But I think that she did as much as she could in the headspace that she was in. That's my opinion.
Because what I will also say, just from like, I guess, actual real life experience, if you're in your relationship, you're going through certain things that may lead you to think that it's not normal, that dynamic that you have in your relationship, I would assume, you would assume that whatever's going on next door that seems that same type of way, you're just going to automatically assume that it's going to be bad. So.
Right. Like, she didn't have one thought in her head that, like, you know, this woman was just, like, so nervous to lose this guy, or she just, like, went to straight.
Yeah.
There is a domestic abuse in this relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess my gripe is she went to that right away, but then she didn't do anything about it. She didn't have conviction with it. But I understand what you're saying, Justyna. You're kind of giving her the benefit of the doubt because we don't know that prior history. We don't know. We're just introduced to these characters now, so I do get that. You talk about the body. We'll just talk about the body bag scene. I don't know if this is another case of this movie came out in 2000, came out on VHS. I don't know if that shot of him putting the body into the trunk was supposed to be in HD ever. Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
like,
they didn't know
supposed
back
to
then,
be. Yeah, if it's supposed to be that visible, because when you're watching it now and you're like seeing the shot, it's so obvious that's what's happening. And then she calls Norman over from the bed, and then obviously the car's gone, and she's like, oh, I thought I saw something. It's like, no, you definitely saw something. You saw him put something in the truck. I always laugh at that. It's so funny.
Yeah, I'm defending the writers on this spot because I'm doing the work. But are we looking at that scene through her perspective only?
Yeah.
You know, is that really what, I mean, she's seeing him put something, but does it look as obvious to be a body, or is that what she wants to see?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again,
I
I'm
think
doing
that's
work.
how they.
I'm working.
Yeah,
for the
no,
movie
I know you
right
are,
now,
and I
but
think
yeah.
that I think you're onto something because he gets over to the window pretty quickly, and then the car is completely gone. So I think I think in that shot you're supposed to question like, oh, did she really see it? But it was like so obvious that it was there.
Right.
Like they could have done a better job, I guess, of like muddying the window or making it less visible. I don't know. You know,
Because
I
we
always
do
laugh
find
at
out that he
shot.
did go that night to get his wife, who was at her parents' house. He put her shit in the trunk, and he did go somewhere that night. It just wasn't with her body.
Yeah.
He was going to get her back. Can
But
we talk about the
I will
shot?
say
Talk about the shot with the fence. That was so psycho when she's running up to the fence and the neighbor's eye. I love that shot when she. Oh my god, I love it. That's straight out of Psycho. Norman Bates' spine through the wall. I love it. I love it so much. It's perfect.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring that up to give it a shout out. I love it so much.
I will say on the flip
well.
side, the lake scene, the first lake scene where she's getting the dog, Cooper's ball from the water, that shot of
creepy
of MEF.
Yes.
What's
Mary Elizabeth? Just call her Mary. Call her
no,
Mary.
not Mary.
Oh.
It's Madison.
Oh yeah,
The shot of
Madison. Yeah,
Madison's the neighbor. Yeah, she's the red herring, I guess. But that shot of her.
No,
in the
Mary's
water,
the neighbor. Mary's the neighbor. Madison's the dead girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so Madison, when she's underneath the water, I thought that was shot perfectly because it was just kind of visible enough you can make out the pattern of a face, but not really, and then it kind of sinks. So that I think they did really well. Yeah,
it's eerie that late, and I mean, I've been to Vermont only in I think the winter and once in the spring, but it's so beautiful. I don't know if they filmed it in Vermont, but they make Vermont look so beautiful. Obviously, they're privileged and well off, so they have a nice house. But I love that scene too when she's running. And first of all, I might be showing my hand, but when her dog runs off after this scene, it's like she's like yelling Cooper, and then she's like, "Fine, have it your way." I would be going into full panic mode. The cops would be at the house. I'd be like, "Where the fuck's my dog?" Like, I don't know I don't know if this has happened before, and he like trots around the neighborhood sniffing a little bit. But I'd be like, she's just like, "Okay, fine, good night." I'm like, what the fuck? That's the one dumb move I think she does through the whole movie.
Look at it as they have a big property and they're kind of in the middle of nowhere, so he'll make his way home, and he's probably
or he'll be drowned in the fucking lake.
Well, it doesn't happen that way, so it's okay.
No, it doesn't. Yes. Coop, guys, dog lovers, what lies beneath, Cooper survives.
Yes. Yeah.
But every time I'm just like, what? Like, fine, have it your way? Like, what? I just think it's funny. But yeah, I do agree with you, Nolan. Pete, you can talk on it too. That scene is gorgeously shot when she's like trying to get the ball and she's it's kind of coming up, but then she doesn't because we don't get a really good look at her until the bathtub scene. And then again at the end, which is obviously on purpose, but awesome. Don't
we also see her in the red dress scene as well?
Yes. Well, this is like this. I mean, if anyone has seen Scary Movie 2, they make fun of it when Michelle Pfeiffer is being, she has some Catwoman in that performance in that scene, but she's, saying, "I think your wife's starting to suspect something," and then she goes up because she has the piece of hair. We're getting we're not going in order right now, but when she has the hair, she goes, and he's like, "What?" And then it goes up, and then it shows her face.
Yeah, that's
because she has that piece of her hair, and the ghost we find at the end was doing that on purpose to get to Spencer and to help her out, and that's what makes her remember, at least the cheating in that scene. But again, that's another iconic scene. But yeah, we do see her face in that scene, Madison's. It's so awesome. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think the act one, the standout scene, Nolan, you might be right, is that to me, it might be the eye scene just because I'm a cinephile. But other than that, I do think it's the scene in the lake where she's kind of starting to be like, where the whole audience is like, ooh, is there a ghost? Like, because we don't really get the vibe of a ghost. Because like you said, the first act is really about her thinking the neighbors are just fucking like, he's trying to kill his wife, or he's hurting his wife, abusing his wife. We don't really get the mystery supernatural part until that lake scene.
Yeah. And it's there, but it's not too prevalent because we also have the scene where she goes into the house and she finds the door open, and then this is where the radio turns on out of nowhere and then turns off. That was super creepy. And like I said, I just watched it with Jackie, and that was her big thing, because she goes to Norman's office afterwards, after that whole encounter, and she's like downplaying what she saw before Norman even reacts. She's like, "Oh, I don't want to worry you. I heard some voices," and I remember Jackie being like, "No, bitch, like the fucking radio went on. Like what? No, like come on, like you're definitely haunted right now." Yeah,
and I feel like that's another. They're talking about how she's downplaying it, maybe because she already knows what his response is going to be. So it's sad. It's really sad. If I know I try to get all tragic with these movies, but it is sad if you think about if you think about it, thematically why she's doing that. It's kind of sad.
And we know that towards the end of the movie, you can look back on these decisions, to your point, because I forget who she's talking to. It might be her psychiatrist, and she's saying, Norman, since the accident, treated me like this fragile doll, like I'm so fragile, and he maybe that's why she's worried about how he's going to react to these situations.
Right. So everyone already looks at her like she's a broken person, and she doesn't want everyone to do that, and that's why she's afraid to start speaking up again.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's pretty heavy stuff if you try to go deep into it. It's sad.
Yeah, talking through it, I know. Yeah,
it's pretty sad, but again, I mean, this is honestly one of my favorite performances of all time. She's amazing.
So really, you're that.
But instant I saw the movie, I'm like, why did she not win an Academy Award for this movie? Why not? It was amazing.
Fair
I think
enough.
she walked so like Toni Collette could run in Hereditary. Honestly, that's how I feel.
Okay.
But so first we kind of covered the first act, right? What do you want to? Yeah. So
I was gonna say, before we move along too much, let's give a shout out to James Remmer and Miranda Otto, the Fiors, because they kind of disappear from this movie, like halfway.
They're
through,
in and out, right? They're in and out a little bit.
Kind of. Last time you see them is at the party, and then they're just like a non-factor at the end of the movie, which is fine.
First of all,
they serve their purpose.
Every time when he does this,
I know. I know you're gonna bring that up. It's so great. It's so like, oh, it's perfect.
It's so dark, but
it's something
like, honestly, I would do that.
It's my humor.
Exactly, I would do that too.
Yeah, but he's awesome. Talk about a great character actor. He plays a great creepy number. The scene where she brings him the welcome basket, and he's like in the door frame, and then he confronts her. I got like super uneasy vibes with that. So he did a really good job. And then Miranda Otto, I love her. Lord of the Rings, I adore. So anytime I see her, I see Eowyn in a different movie. She's awesome. She's in the new Sabrina show on Netflix. She does a good job.
She's also in Annabelle Creation, the sequel, which is the best Annabelle movie. She's the
mom.
Yeah.
She is. Yeah, she's in a lot of different stuff. So shout out to them, just to give them a quick shout out.
I agree, 100% agree. I think she actually, again, I know you talked about James Remmer. He did great, but a shout out to Miranda Otto, the way she played those emotional scenes when she's like up against the fence, like crying to Michelle Pfeiffer. Mm-hmm. Very good stuff. And I do like the conversation when she goes back later in the movie up to Claire. I keep going back from Michelle Pfeiffer and Claire. Sorry, same person. When she goes back up and they actually have coffee together, and she kind of does that whole monologue about, do you ever love someone so much you feel like you can't breathe when you're about to lose them? It's just very
heavy.
deep.
Yeah,
but I'm like,
lady, I just met you.
It didn't feel like, to me, I'm like, why the hell are you talking about this? But like when you go back to like what Claire did during the movie, it makes sense why she's talking about this. So I just think it can come off as heavy-handed, but I think Miranda Otto like delivered that in a very natural way, if that makes sense. I thought that was a very powerful scene between two, females. They were both great. They were both awesome.
Yeah, I'll say with that conversation, again, kind of reverting back to just the whole theme, I would say, of the movie is sometimes when you're in that situation, the only person you can go to is someone who's like kind of a stranger, and that's the only person that you can like really confide in. So I think that, again, ties in the entire theme and kind of preludes what is about to happen.
Isn't it so funny that everything that Claire thought was happening next door is what is about to happen to her?
It's irony, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Scary.
And then the whole MEF connection, how both their initials are MEF, is just perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
so
also,
we didn't talk
guys,
about that. That's an important... go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say, this is a lesson. Like, you don't really need to send your neighbor's welcome basket. It's good to keep to yourself too, people.
Yeah. I know, right?
Fair warning to everybody.
Don't get involved. Yeah.
Yeah. Mind your own business.
Yeah. You guys are not.
Yeah, sorry, no, you can go ahead. You can go forward. Yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna highlight, again, before we move forward too much, an important scene in this beginning act is when she's looking through the photo album, the scrapbook, and you see the news article and stuff. You get the car accident scene, so you know there was an accident. When I watched this again, I haven't seen this movie for a while, so my first rewatch last week, I thought maybe she was hiding something, and it was, it gave me that vibes because she like freaked out when she saw her former husband and stuff, and then the car accident. I was like, oh, what is she hiding? So that was a cool little scene to kind of throw in. I like that.
I agree. And I think it's cool if you think about it. Do you think, because the newspaper articles are like behind pictures, in some of this scene, like behind like the picture for the frames, like she's finding some of these newspaper articles behind the picture frames throughout the movie, like almost like they're hidden.
But
so
I think
it's just the one. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. But do you think that Norman almost like hid them there, or do you think that I think that Claire put them there subconsciously because she was? You don't think that?
Yeah, go ahead, Peen. You can.
She was hiding it away because she's. Yeah, I think that.
I was looking at it more as like a trophy type of thing.
For him?
Yeah.
Interesting, because I looked at it the opposite.
What are we talking about? Are we talking about the?
I don't know what.
It's you talking about the picture frame that breaks?
Yes.
In the office?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Because that's a newspaper clipping. So
yes.
The one side is the photo from the newspaper, which they framed, and it just happens to be the other side of the newspaper had the missing girl article.
Okay.
I don't think it was like a secret.
Okay.
It's not two different pieces of paper. It's all one. Yeah.
Because I almost think it's like she's like hid it because it's something that she put away, but she's trying to remember. But that could be. I like the other idea about Norman like hiding his trophy of killing that girl.
Yeah, but then Nolan, I think you were talking about when she was flipping through her car accident photos and newspaper clippings from the beginning.
Oh yeah, that's different. Yeah,
when that tells us, oh, she got into that accident. That's why her daughter was asking, are you going to be okay? We assume that she may be a little bit more mentally messed up from that accident. I think that's what Nolan was getting at.
Yes, there was a lot
there. We don't know
there.
yet if it's a year. We find out it's a year later from the accident, but we don't know. I don't know if we find that out yet. It's coming up on a year. That's all we know.
A lot is presented to us in that. It's presented that she had a former husband, the car accident, the news clipping of Norman's father passing away is in there, I believe. So you're trying to connect all the dots. You're like, wait, I thought his father was going to play a bigger role in this movie and that there was going to be a secret with that. I actually had a couple different working theories regarding Norman, especially when it comes to MEF, but we'll get into that when we get to the second act. So why don't we?
Obviously grew up as a wealthy kid because of his father, obviously, and the only really thing we get out of the father is Claire is just like, you're really sensitive about your father's death, which I love that scene when she talks to him about that.
Yeah,
it's so funny.
Yeah,
he's like, yeah, I am.
I think they're trying to play off, like you said, he grew up in a wealthy family. He's trying to follow in his father's footsteps, but be his own man. It's that whole, dynamic. So,
right.
But yeah, I thought he was going to play a bigger role in the mystery, but turns out.
Oh, that's interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny because you grew up with this movie, it sounds like, so, and I didn't. So watching it again as an adult, I knew how it ended, but I forgot everything in the middle pretty much. So it was kind of a cool rewatch for me. Yeah.
Cool. I also love, I don't know if we might be in the second act now, but I love when they're, after she's spying on doing the TV dinner, like Norman comes home, he's like, yo, we're late for dinner because they're going to meet friends. And I love the hint that Robert Zemeckis gives us when they're going over the bridge. Norman's like, I'm going to call the restaurant to let them know we're going to be late. And she's like, you don't get reception until you're halfway across the bridge. And that obviously comes into play later in the movie. And that's, again, such a Hitchcock thing to do, of like planting that seed without spelling it out.
Anytime something like that happens, especially in a horror movie, it's going to come into play later on. It's like they didn't do that on accident. It's definitely,
And then also, Pete, you can speak to this. I think it's so asshole of Norman to like make a joke out of it, pretty much saying that like when they're out to dinner,
Oh,
he's like, Claire, our house is haunted.
I would
And he pretty much puts Claire on the spot in
Yeah.
that scene, like pretty much saying she's crazy without blatantly saying she's crazy.
Claire's side eye was great in that.
Oh my!
Yeah.
Her facial acting is so good. But then he pretty much makes a joke out of it. He's like, "Yeah, it's my dad. He's mad at us for renovating the house because it's his dad's house.
Yeah.
They took over." But I'm like, that's such an asshole thing to do. Put her on the spot like that.
Well, first and foremost, if I were her, I'd probably kill him. But second of all, that goes to show you again how just little she feels within her relationship. So I do think, without moving too far into the movie, I do think the movie is good at showing her character development of like, I don't need this bullshit anymore.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because now that we're talking about it, that is a pretty important theme because, she was an important, like a really, really good concert. What is it, a cello?
Oh,
Yeah.
She played the cello. Yeah, she was a
She
musician.
played the cello. She had her own.
Again,
she had her own
yep.
solo. I mean, she went to the Juilliard school, so she was a really, really well respected woman. And then she meets this guy who's this, she calls him brilliant scientist, and gives all that up. And it's that whole dynamic of, he's so smart and he knows what's best, and I'm now relegated to just pretty much being a housewife.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's an interesting dynamic.
I
too,
love that you brought that
goes
up.
into
I
her
actually had
character.
it in my notes. I love that thank you for bringing that up because again, this shows it's an unhealthy relationship because in my opinion, any relationship, whether you give up your career if you love it, a hobby, whatever, if it's a little hobby or whatever, if you just like walking, doing 5-mile runs every day and your husband's like, don't do that, or your wife's don't do that, don't give up something you love because of somebody else. And she does that because of him. And that's clearly very unhealthy, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. It's pretty unhealthy.
And she, like you said, she was like a very well-regarded musician and she loved it. And she gave this up to be a housewife, literally.
Yeah, I will say, before you guys move on, I think this movie does a really good job at allowing the viewer to put themselves in Claire's shoes because you do feel everything that she's feeling. I think it makes you, like you, Aunt, like so angry that it really does allow us to feel what she's feeling. And I think that's just kudos to them for that.
And specifically kudos to Michelle Pfeiffer and her performance.
Mm-hmm.
And the writing.
And talk about performances. We'll get to maybe my favorite scene in the movie where the first act and I guess the second act kind of comes to a build-up where she confronts Norman and she's at her breaking point. I forget what happens. Is this right after the bathtub scene?
Yeah, can we talk about the seance quick? The seance? First of all, we didn't bring up my girl Jody, who I would love to hang out with her on a Saturday night. Jeez, she sounds like a blast in the glass.
Yeah. That book that she gives her, I want that book. That's the coolest gift ever. Yeah.
So Jody is clearly like a hippie out of like the 60s or something. And she is Claire's, best friend. And she does play an important role in the end of the movie. So I'm happy we're getting to this scene. But anyway, so Claire pretty much uses her as an outlet in the movie. And she confides in her because Norman makes Claire go see a therapist after, the things with the neighbors and when she starts to hear stuff. And first of all, I think it's funny that the therapist is like, here, have a fireball. Like what? Yeah. Why is she eating like hot?
I think it's a sensory thing. I think that's a technique that they use to get you to.
I love how she just she's like, ow, it's hot. Like, what?
That scene was
but
funny,
anyway, he literally like tells her, because he thinks that from what I got from that therapy session is he thinks she's like, I'm seeing ghosts, and he's like, really, what does the ghost look like? She's like, well, it looks like me, but with green eyes. So I get the vibe that he's like, oh, this bitch is just talking about herself and blah, blah, blah. But he tells her, he's like, well, you should try to connect to it. And this is what leads, like you said, the seance scene with her friend Jody. And Jody's game for it. Again, gotta love Jody. So they're in the bathroom because that's where early in the movie she experienced some happenings. Shit in the mirror and stuff. So she saw in the bathtub. So that's why they're in there. And she takes the bloody shoe she found, we think, next door because she thinks that the ghost is the next door neighbor. So they have the piece of the dead woman. I love how Jodie's like, "What is this? You have." She's like, "You have to have a piece of the dead woman to connect." She's like, "Okay." It's so funny.
I would leave.
But so they do the whole seance, and she's like, "I wish to commune," and that's when Jodie gets another laugh in. She's like, "Commune?" She's like, "We wish to communicate." I think it's so funny. But then obviously, you know, they start to feel something, and then it's good old Cooper who comes in and breaks up the party, the dog. But then Jodie, obviously, and this is the typical Hitchcock, the typical horror movie cliche, Jodie leaves, and then Claire comes back in, and obviously there's steam coming through the bathroom, and then she goes in the bathroom and she sees something, and she yells, "What do you want?" And then she sees in the mirror, it says, "You know." So then that's an important scene before we get to the scene you were talking about. So then she
because
there's something
she's
going
taking
on in
that
house.
as
Right.
she's taking that as she's had a suspicion that Mary is dead, and seeing that in the mirror, she thinks that's Mary telling her, "You know, I'm dead." So at this point, she's convinced, like, Mary is a goner. Yeah, she's 100%
That's also the
convinced.
MEF scene on the computer when she goes downstairs and the MEF keeps popping up.
Yes.
I do love when she first comes in from Jodie. I don't know if I noticed this before, but now that I watch this movie, like the background, when she first opens the door, you see in the mirror the computer flashes on.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
Oh,
and
you
I
never
also
noticed that?
I don't know. I probably did, but I watched it like 3
okay.
times in the past 2 days. I'm like, oh, I fucking love that.
It's a little.
I think that it comes into play later because we'll get into it. But I absolutely love the shot when she's pretending to, well, not pretending, when she's channeling Madison, and then she looks back and the door opens and it's Claire walking in the rain, and you see her in the mirror. Obviously, she walked in on them. Her and Madison and Spencer in that scene. I just love that shot in the mirror. So the mirror comes back into play too later in the movie. But yeah, very, very good stuff. We're getting into the nitty gritty of the movie. So like I said, it just keeps building. It doesn't stop building until the climax.
What I will say, I guess I have one gripe, and I don't know if it's like, there would be no movie if this didn't. I just wish the ghost would be more specific of who she was, because I just think we caused a lot of stress for no reason as the ghost.
I think she needed her to believe, like, the more she appeared, the more she started believing it, and started believe that's what makes her acting up more throughout the movie. That's the typical logical response.
Well, why don't we talk about that? So why don't we talk about MEF? Madison turns out to be her motives, and I think the motives are pretty unique and pretty cool. Her motive throughout the movie is to get not Claire to believe that she's a ghost, but her goal is to get Claire to remember what happened before the accident. So we know the whole in the mirror and stuff, that's really her goal. Her goal is not to prove that she's necessarily dead and that she's haunting them. It's really just like, please remember everything, because she doesn't want her to be with Norman. I think it's that whole, she's looking out for her.
Right. She's saying, remember, and, you're in danger, girl. Like, you're with a very dangerous dude.
Yeah.
And again, we'll talk about I can't wait to talk about the ending.
Because I also think she believes, MEF knows how dangerous Norman is. So if she would have just told her,
he killed her.
Everything that happened, the ending of the movie would have happened a lot sooner. And I think she was trying to avoid that in a way.
Well, it's movie logic. It's movie logic mixed with, you can put, like I said, you can put my spin on it, you can put your spin on it. I think that, like in every horror movie, the paranormal activity starts, at a base level, then it just hyping, like, the more they're like, oh, is this something happening? Then they, it intensifies. So again, guys, you can say that I'm working for the writers, but I think it's logical. I think it's logical.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And again, every movie, I have a gripe with the movie. Every movie has a nitpick,
Yeah, but so this like I was saying before, this is like one of my favorite scenes in the movie when she goes and confronts Norman, and they're outside, and then she sees Warren Fior inside. I guess there's like a party going on, or like not a party, but
an event or something.
And she goes and confronts Warren. And at this point, you're like,
son of a
oh,
bitch.
fuck yeah, Claire. Yeah, no, I'm like rooting for Claire. I'm like, yeah, fuck you, Warren. Like, call his ass out in front of everyone. It was awesome. And then fucking Mary shows up and it's fucking, dude,
I
it's
get
like such a
every
dump.
time.
Yeah, I know. It's such a deflating feeling. You're like, oh shit. If she didn't want people to think she was crazy before, now it's like really bad. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm actually happy you brought that scene up. I'm very happy because that is the one scene so far in the movie where she doesn't listen to Spencer and she goes against him to confront Warren.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're rooting for her because she's finally like got the power to like, no, you are wrong. I am right. I have this conviction. And you're like, yes, yeah, we're doing it. And then it all blows up in her face and you're like, no, she finally
And that
has
also
the
goes
courage.
to what Peen said. Her character development throughout the movie. She's getting her senses back, and it's also making her a stronger woman throughout. So she's not afraid to stand up to him, specifically in that scene. And then obviously she also, she gets shit done in the end too.
Right. Oh yeah, because he even turns it around on. He tries to make it about himself because he's like, "Are you doing this on purpose to sabotage me?" And she's like,
"Asshole."
It has nothing to do with you. And I was like, go Claire, go Claire.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Oh, we should also mention before we find out he used to be a professor and he's moved to research now only. I'm only saying that because that comes into play with the reveal. That's all.
Well, okay. No, because he's still a professor.
No, but he really doesn't. But he says he's like, I'm not teaching. He's really not teaching more often. Yeah, he's more in the research because he's like, do you know how close I am? That's why he's freaking out. Like Nolan said in the scene, you know how close we are to blah blah blah. You know, I just have to do this for a few more weeks. But he specifically mentions I've stepped back from teaching.
Okay.
And I'm more on the research side because obviously, what happened when he was teaching.
Well, yeah, true.
But yeah, I'm glad that you brought that scene up, Nolan, because I was like, fuck yes, Claire. And then I was like, oh no, Claire. Like in 5 minutes.
Yeah. And that's a major shift in the movie. That this is like, you have before this scene and then after this scene. Because it's building up to Mary with Warren Fior, the neighbor, and now it's, nope, they're have nothing to do with it. Is it all in her head? Is there really a ghost? And then we kind of get, it's almost like a second build up. In the second half of the movie, it kind of starts building again. Yeah.
So after that sequence, let's talk about, she ends up tracking down Madison's mother. And she goes to visit the mother, and this is where she steals the lock of Madison's hair. And she also notices a photo of her wearing a necklace, which is very important. Mm-hmm. So then she goes back to the house, and this is where she performs. Well, actually, in between all this, they also go to a party, and there's people at the party who are telling Claire, like, you were very upset here last year. Like, what was going on? And Claire doesn't remember. She's like, I remember the party, but I don't remember much after that. And she's like, yeah, the woman's like, you couldn't breathe, like, you were hyperventilating. Like, she's like, so again, that adds to the mystery, which is about to be revealed. So after she gets the lock of hair, she goes back to the house, and she's waiting for Norman because Norman's never fucking home. And she ends up performing a ritual. And this is such a good scene. So I don't know how to word this. I would say she conjures Madison within this scene.
Before we get into this, I want to talk about, just real quick before we skip ahead, when she goes to Madison's mother's house. I'm curious, before I reveal what like my thought process was, do you guys remember what was going through your head at this moment? Like, there was kind of a little tidbits that the mother said, and I had some working theories that turned out to be wrong. But how did you feel about that whole sequence and that scene?
Do you mean specifically as in she was like, Madison was a partier, I'm surprised she did well, and like all that shit?
Everything, yeah, all the backstory on Madison and stuff. Because
I think that was actually when I first heard that, I was just like, clearly like they're giving the hints that this girl's a partier. Not that like she's obviously, I don't want to say gets around, that's a bad thing to say, but she's not as innocent as what we're seeing on the news clippings either. And I'm not saying she's the guilty one in this scenario because she wasn't married, but I didn't get the sense of she had anything to do with the plot of, I didn't get any sense of that she was behind anything, if that's what you're going for. Yeah, the mom.
No, yeah. I guess I'll just say it. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but I was thinking that Well, you don't even know what I'm going to say.
Well, but everything's intentional. Everything's
know.
intentional.
When she starts talking about Madison's father, did you pick up on that? And how his father left when she was 12? I thought, is Norman the secret father?
I see where you're going.
That the timeline makes a lot of sense for that because, you know, Norman didn't meet Claire until they were later on in life. He could have had this secret past. I thought that was the big secret that we were going to get, was that Norman was her father.
That makes it even more disgusting that you said that, because someone who he could have been a father to is someone he was sleeping with.
Well, I'm not saying I still believe that, but I'm saying
but like it makes him even more that he's taking advantage of someone who's a student.
Oh, of age.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were saying that he was sleeping with his legit daughter. I was like, what is happening?
I'm saying if you take a step back, if you take a step back and you're like, this dude is sleeping with his students who are still, you know, for lack of a better term, innocent, and like he's taking advantage.
Yes.
When he could have been her father, you know.
I do have a question, and it's not about the movie. And again, I know really nothing about film and the history of things happening, but this was released in 2000.
Correct.
When did all of those things start coming out about, you know, Me Too and stuff like that?
Like 2015 or 2016.
Yeah.
Okay.
We talked about it. Scream 3 foreshadowed it too.
Okay.
You know, a bunch of movies foreshadowed it. Yeah.
Okay. That was it. That was my only question.
It's kind of disgusting that Hollywood is making movies off of like women in peril when they knew the whole time that, you know, they were actually in peril.
But like, well, don't you think it was maybe a subliminal message as well?
Oh, 100%. It's people speaking out without
saying something,
speaking out because they were scared of losing their career.
Right.
So yeah, there's hidden message, shit like that in so many movies. But yeah, Me Too, like I don't think came out until almost 2016 or something like that.
Gotcha. All right.
Cool. So yeah, back to the ritual scene. You want to get back to that ritual scene? Yeah, not cool. Cool.
Not cool.
So let's get back to the ritual scene, because I love this scene. I think it's might be the best directed scene of the movie just because of how it's shot. When she I would say that's the correct term. She kind of conjures Madison in that scene.
Okay. Yeah, and, that's a good term.
Almost like possessed by her spirit because she's not acting like Claire in that scene. That's where I get the, you know, Madison wasn't so innocent. She was a seductive woman. Like she was. Whew. All right.
So you do believe that Madison was controlling Claire in this scene?
Yes. You are.
Yes, okay.
I do.
You too,
I really do.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're all on the same page with that. Yeah.
Because
they show that with the green eyes too
at the end.
You see the
she's
green eyes.
Not speaking as Claire would. She's speaking as someone. She's like being aggressive with like Spencer. Very aggressive. She like bites him when she's eating the apple and all that shit.
Well, I think she's recreating the scene. Don't you? She's recreating
Madison
that night because she's calling him Professor Spencer or Mr. Spencer, and I think. And she bites his lips, and he's like, "Ow, that's too rough." And she's like, "Since when is that too rough?"
Exactly.
So I think they had like a rough, sexual relationship.
Right.
I think that's all being recreated. But I think her point was to show Claire through her eyes because she didn't have Claire's perspective. So the only thing she could do was show Claire through her, as in Madison's POV. What happened that night, and when she sees herself in the mirror, that's when she puts everything together.
Much.
Yeah, it's so brilliant.
Love it, because when she looks back, it's so freaky because she's in that moment with Spencer, but she's looking back and seeing herself walking in on this.
It's so
good. So good. And that's when she leans and says, I think she's starting to suspect something. He's like, who? She's like, your wife. And then you get that like, oh shit, that's Madison. When she sees her face.
Her off. Yeah.
And then that's when he literally like fucking flings her.
Well, I mean, all right, you can't really blame him for throwing.
No, but like, damn, he manhandled the shit out of her in that scene. Yeah, but that's when she drops the lock of hair and she comes to as Claire, and then she remembers that repressed memory of Norman's affair with the student. And that's when she left all upset, and that's what led her to crashing into the tree and, the accident. So she remembers that, and she leaves the night and she goes to Jody. She leaves. She says, get out. And he's such an asshole. He doesn't even leave. She has to leave her own house and go to Jody. And this is also like, I don't know if this is a good or bad friend moment, but this is when Jody reveals that she knew.
She knew. What a bitch.
She saw Norman arguing with a woman in a cafe, and she was going to go up to say hi, but something about the way they were talking, it stopped her. And then when she went to the hospital, she saw Norman, because in Norman's fucked up way, he still loves Claire. So when she goes to the hospital, she sees him distraught over Claire's accident.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I just couldn't tell you, I couldn't say something. So I don't know if it's a good friend moment, but like, I kind of understand her in the same
like
aspect.
it because it
complicated.
serves two purposes. It gives us more breadcrumbs, and it also makes Jody's character a little bit more dynamic. And I like when they do that
and
with
crucial.
side characters.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Peen?
I was just gonna say, I think he's just playing the part of a happy husband. I don't think he actually is a good husband. And do you think he genuinely cared?
Well, that's interesting because I see it throughout the movie.
I do in his own narcissistic way.
I do too. Yeah.
I'm not saying he's a good guy.
She's going through all this crazy shit, but he still loves her and in his weird way kind of wants to help her, but also put her down. He doesn't want to lose her. That's his trophy. It's his trophy wife.
Hold up. But then, without getting too far ahead, but then what is the point of everything else that he does?
Well, because when she finds out what he really did, there's no going back. There's only one thing to do. But until that point, I think he wants to save his traditional life, happy wife, traditional, the traditional everyday guy.
Yeah.
I do think in his weird twisted way, though, he did love Claire still. Nolan, I think, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle. I think he definitely loved the idea of Claire.
Right.
And the idea of this life, because they do set it up that they are like, they have the sex scene in the beginning of the movie. They are in a pretty good place, even though it is a little manipulative with the power dynamics. They are pretty happy in the relationship. And she even says that to the psychiatrist, like he pokes and prods her, and she kind of she admits that like not everything is perfect, but she did. Hey, Craven.
Another Craven, featuring Craven.
Craven, 2 episodes in a row. Yeah. But yeah, what do you think about it, Justyna?
I don't know. I just feel like I don't believe any of what he does. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's valid. Yeah. So let's get to the point. Okay, so Claire is at Jody's, and then she says, Norman calls Jody because obviously, where else is she gonna go? And he leaves a message like, I'm looking for Claire, blah blah blah. And she's like, can you call him and tell me to meet me at the house in the morning? I need to confront him and talk to him. And this is interesting because when she goes home, she finds him unconscious in the tub, and she finds the blow dryer in the tub, and it's presented as an accident, but there's so many ways you can go about this. I don't know what you guys think. He says it's not a suicide attempt. Do you think it was staged by him?
Yes.
Or
he confirms that. He does.
Well, do you think that Madison did that?
No.
Because then why would the power go out?
Well, he does tell her at the end, how like cold the water was when I pretended to remember. So are you trying to suggest that he was lying to her and it really was Madison? Or
I don't know. I think there's 2 valid options. He could have staged it, or it could have been Madison in that scene, because that's where a lot of the activity happened. Like, was she just trying to get it done right then and there? I don't know. I lean more towards the side of he's almost staged it, because the point of Madison is she wants Claire to realize, and if she wants, even if she killed him in that scene, Claire wouldn't have known that he killed her. So she wants Claire to know that he's actually a murderer. So that's where I kind of go to the side of he staged it, but I also think that, I don't know, it could have been Madison.
Well, then let's flip it. Why did he stage it?
Right.
What was the point of staging it?
Well, he staged it because he knew that she was coming home and he wanted sympathy. He's a fucking gaslighter. He switched. He wants he wants her to be sympathetic. He's trying to keep her from leaving him. He left on a really bad note. And she's concerned. She comes in screaming. She calls the ambulance. So now it's like, oh, he's not in a good spot mentally and obviously physically because of this incident. So she has to stay at the house. take care of him.
So you think he didn't anticipate her blaming it on Madison? You thought he thought she was going to think it was a suicide attempt? Because I don't think she ever thought it was a suicide attempt.
No,
she was pretty convinced that it was something happened paranormal. Yeah.
So Claire thought it was Madison. The audience can either think it was Madison or him staging it. I don't think it was a suicide. I don't think anyone thinks it's a suicide.
But he wanted her to think that, you think? Maybe subliminally? Is that what you're saying?
No, because he says, you know, the thing was plugged in and it fell in. Because he even says it wasn't a suicide attempt.
No, I know, yeah.
But again, to your point, and to your point, though, I will say maybe he wants that thought in the back of her head, so that keeps her around even more, too. Because she's like, oh, now he's in a fragile mental state, too. He's going to kill himself if I leave.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Or did he just... I was just thinking, did he want her to just stay there for that night so he could have her to do the things that he was planning on doing?
I don't think he was planning to do those things until she gives him the monologue and says, you know, you fucking killed her. Because at that point, she still is not 100% convinced that he killed her. She just thinks it was an affair. And she's missing. All I know is I definitely think he staged it. I kind of leaning towards that too, but I think it's an interesting... The director poses an interesting question to which option the audience wants to go with.
I almost think that I definitely think he staged it, but I think his reasons are a little different. I think he wanted her to, I think at this point, he thought the best course of action was to play into the whole haunting. Because at this point, this is where he starts to, like, believe her afterwards. He tries to convince her on the dock like it was an accident, or not on the dock. I don't remember what scene it was. Remember, he's like, repeat it to me. She's like, I have to go lay down. And once she goes and lays down, then he calls the paranormal guy, who you gonna call guy? That's funny.
Ghostbusters.
So I think he did that on purpose to play into that so he can flip the switch and be this good husband who believes her. I don't know how you feel, if you think that's plausible.
Interesting too.
Yeah.
I think any of these are plausible, if I'm being honest.
But that's also the point, because
well, that's why sometimes I hate movies, because I need an answer.
That's why I love movies.
Yeah.
So
this is why we have this outlet to talk about it. So
clearly, we could all have different opinions on this scene, and I think to some effect we do. So after this is pretty much this is what I was talking about, where it kind of switches to his POV, I think. Yes.
And we get the phone call. He's trying to figure things out, and then we see that she goes walking onto the dock.
Yes.
And he goes and confronts her.
In the water. Yeah.
She doesn't jump. So this is what I wanted to ask. She gets pulled, in my opinion.
I thought she dove.
Because she's got the locket in her hand.
Oh, yeah, it could be Madison.
Madison.
It could be Madison.
Pulls her.
That's true.
Because the way she's torpedoing to the bottom of the water, it looks like she's being pulled by some force.
Right, because this is where she finds
interpreted
she gets the necklace, right, in this scene?
Yeah, the box.
The box. She finds the box, but she doesn't pull it up right away. She goes back later. Yeah. We never talked about the key. Did we ever talk about the key?
No, we didn't, but the key's also very vital.
Crucial. Yeah. Because at this point, he saves her, and then they burn the locket, and Norman thinks, like, all right, this is behind us, because Claire thinks that they got rid of the ghost by burning the locket. She says, like, she's not here anymore, so we're good. And Norman's like, oh, cool. Like, all right, we can move on. So this is where they go sailing, I think. We're on the boat, and she confronts him about the town that Jody saw him in with the mistress. Adamant, I think it's called.
Yes.
The town of Adamant.
Oh, good call.
Yeah. I just watched it today again.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. But and this is where the key comes into play.
Right.
Because then she goes on her own to Adamant after he says that he's never been there. Which I kind of agree with him. Because like if like I put myself in his shoes, like she doesn't want to hear about like all the things I did with my mistress. So like it's kind of like a white lie in that scene to me. Like, would you want to hear about, like, oh, yeah, I was in Adamant with Madison for a few months, and that's where I gave her this locket, you know? It kind of makes sense why he lied, you know? Right. Even if he's not a murderer, in that scene, it kind of made sense. I don't know.
So we should say before we get to the big reveal that he does tell her that an unstable Madison confronted him when he ended the affair. But he denies killing her. He doesn't know.
Yeah.
About-
This is his explanation of why she's haunting, I
Right.
guess, the house and Claire. Yeah.
Right.
Because she's jealous and all that. Yeah.
Right.
That's a good on you to point that out.
But
yeah,
yeah.
I wanted to talk about when she goes to Adamant, because then she sees the box
The same
in the
necklace.
window.
Right.
The same necklace from like 2 years ago. I guess they don't like rotate their inventory that often.
It's an antique
They just have
shop.
the
It's an
same
antique
stuff.
shop.
But they have multiples of the same, so
Right.
it's not really that antique-y, you know.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But so she unlocks the box with the key she found in Norman's office.
Well, let's talk about this scene. So that this is nighttime, right? How do you feel about this whole sequence? Because this is another scene where I'm screaming at Claire, like, "What the fuck are you doing?" This, I'm not a fan of Claire in this scene. How do you
Oh,
feel
really?
about this?
I
Yeah,
love it.
she waits
She's so
till
determined.
nighttime while he's sleeping, dude. Lady,
Well,
like he's
because
never
she-
home during the day. Wait till the daytime.
But
Like,
isn't
and
he?
then
No,
she
but isn't he
brings-
home? Isn't he home because of that, what happened to him? Isn't he home all that time?
He might be, but I don't know. I think that was like, you really do it at nighttime, and then you bring the box back inside the house. Why not open it outside? Why do you have to bring it inside? I was like, oh, you're just begging to be caught. I don't really feel bad for her in this scene.
I think
I've
because
watched
she wants
too
to
many horror
confront him.
movies.
She wants to confront him. She
Oh,
wants
yeah,
to know
well,
the
I mean,
truth.
definitely, yeah.
But I see your point too. But to me, I'm just like, yeah, girl, get to the bottom of this shit.
Me knowing I'm watching a horror movie, I guess I kind of overanalyze
You
it.
know it.
Yeah.
You from your perspective is different from her perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love when she confronts him. But then he goes another story. He says, I came home and she killed herself, and in desperation he pushed her car in the lake because it would look bad. So he's still lying to the
Yeah.
very end.
I want to
Yeah, go
hear
ahead.
a woman's perspective on
Okay.
this scene and how you felt, because I have my feelings on this monologue, and I want to hear what you were feeling.
So, like, when he explains what happened?
Yeah.
Well, not
His
what
last,
actually
like-
happened with
Yeah.
His last
attempt, that
gaslighting
she killed
attempt.
herself.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I feel like at that rate, my heart rate would probably be so fucking through the roof that I probably wouldn't listen to anything that he said, and I would take Cooper and just fucking leave at that point.
Poor Cooper.
And that's about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't believe anything from. I feel like
Because of
my realization and probably revelation would be much earlier than hers with just who he is. But again, that's me saying it from my perspective. I don't know what I would be like in her shoes, but still I understand every single decision that she made, like even why she did open the box in the house, just because she needed to find out. And at that rate, I don't think she was really worried about his reactions anymore.
She wanted to face him.
Yeah.
And also, I do think it's so, like, he's saying, I didn't kill her, she killed herself, but I still hid the body and all the evidence and put it in the fucking lake. Like, that's still bad. That's really bad.
Oh, yeah.
To admit that,
that's
still bad.
I would be afraid for my life in that situation.
Oh,
yeah.
So,
Because he's capable, you don't even know the full extent what he's capable yet, but if he's capable of doing that, like, he's capable of doing a lot. And the next scene really infuriates me. When she says, you have to call the police and we need her body. Like, they need to recover her body. And then he does that with the phone. He's like, all right, I'll call the police. Oh, but he doesn't. He dials 411 instead. But I will say, Nolan, you said she was dumb. This scene, she's smart. She checks right away. But this also leads to her getting...
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I still think she's dumb because... going back to his whole monologue, the whole time I'm just rolling my eyes. I'm like, this guy is full of shit.
Yeah.
There is no way she believes him. And I think in that moment, it's not that she fully believes him, but she gives him an opportunity to prove himself by
Agreed.
calling the police. Whereas I would have done it myself. I would have been like, you're full of shit. I don't care if you are telling the truth. I'm taking control of this situation and I'm calling the police. But she gives him the benefit of the doubt and lets him make the call. So in a way, she is trusting him, sort of, even if it's just a
Interesting.
little bit. And
I
she
don't
doesn't.
know. Huh.
She doesn't check the phone right away. She goes past it, and then
Well, no, she can't.
I hate those scenes because it's like they walk so slow. It's like, dude, just check the phone. Why does it take you so long to check a phone? It's so annoying.
I don't know
But
what you would say
purposeful.
to that. I agree with that, Nolan, but I also think you can speak on this, Bean. I think she wants him to take accountability himself.
Yeah, but at this point, before you go, Peen, I'm done with him. I'm sorry.
I was done with him fucking halfway through the movie, man.
There's no saving this relationship. No, I'm calling the police myself. Yeah.
I would say I would give him the benefit of the doubt if there were no suicides or deaths in the mix. I would give him the benefit of the doubt and let him do whatever he's got to do. But I think this is too far. I don't think I would allow him to do any of this. I think I would take the phone call. But to be fair and play devil's advocate, I would also be thinking in that moment, what if I did call the cops there? What is he going to do to me? Because I'm doing that right in front of him. I don't know. I would be weary and go slow and look at the phone later on, though, because I would lock myself in the bathroom and do that later.
I see your point, but I think she takes the middle road. I think she could have done one or the other. She could have called herself or pretended to believe him and say, I believe you and I forgive you, and play the complete opposite way. To play the middle and be like, I believe you, you call, prove to me. I don't know if that was the right thing to do.
I will say,
because he says he's pleading with her. He's like, please. She's like, what do you want me to do? And he's like, right? I want. Yeah, I know. He's like, I want you to forgive me. And there's that long dramatic pause, and then she's finally like, we have to tell people. So she does, she
stands her ground.
She's not that scared of him because she does stand her ground and say, no, we have to call the cops. So I think to your point, she was a little bit afraid, but if she was afraid, she should have rolled with it completely.
Yeah.
And said I give in to him complete, and then later on maybe called the cops.
Fair.
Yeah. It's easy to nitpick.
She's suspicious. But once she looks at that phone and she sees, she switches to terrified.
Oh, I love that shot.
Oh my god, she's literally she's shaking.
and then he's behind her. It's fucking great.
And he just gets her with the drugs her. Before we get to that though, I want to just go back really quick. I just thought of something in my head. Even before he says about her killing herself when he's trying to get the last ditch effort, even when he goes and says we had an affair, but I don't know what happened to her, she's missing, I would have been like, okay, so then you're not giving the FBI and the police any info to find her. Even then, you're not aiding an investigation, because if she's missing, before we even
he's trying
find
to
out,
preserve his life,
right?
Yeah.
So even then, he's selfish because he's not trying to help to find this woman. So if I was his wife, I'd been like, you're still fucked up, even if you just had an affair with her, because this girl's missing. You could help the investigators find her. So I just wanted to throw that in. He's still an asshole. Everything he's trying to do to save himself is just digging himself a bigger hole and just showing how much of an asshole he is. Asshole's not even the right term. He's
he's more horrible. Than that.
Narcissistic. Yeah.
But I love the scene when he drugs her. I get goosebumps because it's scary. He's that look on, and I keep giving kudos to Michelle Pfeiffer, but the look on his face when he does that, you're like, oh fuck, this guy's not fucking around anymore. Mm-hmm. It's scary. It's very scary. And then he obviously admits to murdering Madison when she threatened to expose their affair. So that's, when he finally admits coward. He admits it after he drugs her. Coward.
I know. This is such a cliche monologue where he's taking her to the tub and he's like, I did this because I love you. He's trying to play the victim still. It's dude, stop it, please. We don't feel bad for you.
He's a good villain, man. I don't.
That's why
really good.
That's why I hated him. That is why I hated him.
And I love the shot of him. I love how you mentioned. I love the shot of him carrying her. It's just, I don't know. It's so classic. This is what I keep going back to Hitchcock. It's such a classical shot. I know you said cliche, which it is, but to me, it's just classic vibes, classic horror suspense vibes of him placing her in the tub.
I just want to mention this really quick because I don't know if we did, but I'm not going to call it the drug that he drugged her with. He was doing research on it, and it was meant for them to be awake and aware of things around them, but paralyzed. So he wanted her to be awake and aware of her being in the bathtub, just not able to move.
That makes it even worse.
Yeah.
That makes him even more of a psycho.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we'll get to Michelle Pfeiffer in this next scene, but how did this not win her an award in this fucking bathtub scene? It's fucking amazing. When her eye acting,
Stop.
it's just like,
because like that's why I don't like it.
So,
and then like
it's so good.
when you see her little toes trying to get the thing out, you just want it to go.
It's so hard to watch. It's so
it's my nightmare.
as a
I've had a nightmare
claustrophobic
about this
myself.
scene. Yes.
Yeah, I cannot get through this scene without looking away. It's really bad.
So his plan is to fill
though.
up the water, and obviously she's gonna drown because she's paralyzed.
Yes.
And that's so fucked up. It's like, dude, just do it. Like he lets her like watch the water level just go on.
Right.
And then poor Cooper is whining because he knows something's wrong.
So actually, Pina we were talking earlier. She's like, "Wait, the dog doesn't die." I'm like, "No, he's safe." But when I rewatched it, it's so sad because he runs Nolan he runs up to the tub and he's whining because he's concerned for her. And then Spencer just grabs him. He's like, "Cooper, let's go." And he like locks him away.
Let's find your ball.
Wait, just really quick, when do we do our never split up moments?
At the end, before we give our rating.
Okay.
But I don't remember that scene being so like, because Cooper I thought Cooper just like came in to check, like, what's going on?
No.
Yeah,
he
the
like
first
cries
time too.
He cries.
Yeah, the second time when I watched it today, I was like, "Oh, he's so sad." Yeah.
Yeah. Good dog acting.
He didn't have to. What I will say though is going back to, did he really love her? Because if you actually did love her at this point, why would you let her suffer and die that way? Just kill her quickly.
Because he loves himself more and he's pissed off at her for finding out.
Whoever said narcissist was the correct term.
In his story, she's the bad guy. Because again, that whole cliche monologue when he's carrying her, he's like, "I did everything to cover everything up. I have this burden. I'm the guy who saved our lives by not telling the police. You'd be, a single mom again." So in his mind, he's still the protagonist, and she's now the bad guy for fucking everything up. So I think that's why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's like, "You ruined it. So this is the only way it has to end. Like, now I have to kill you so I can keep my success and my career." That's all he cares about himself. He's selfish.
But you're right. It's like, why torture her like that? It's so messed up. Yeah.
I do think it's because he wants to make his point, and he's like, I can cause fucking suffering. You watch. He's a fucker. But this scene is so iconic. It's so good. So the bathtub's filling up, and he's giving he's continuing to talk to her. He's like, "Oh, it's a little cold." He's such a fucking asshole. But he keeps talking, and he's like, "Oh, what's this?" And this is so perfectly directed. Again, Robert Zemeckis, like, oh, he's so good. So he lifts her up to take the necklace off, and when he lifts her back, boom, you get like, but you don't just get Madison's face, you get like the deadly look in Madison's face. And he fucking jumps back and he freaks out and he like knocks himself out in the sink because he slams his head, gets all bloodied up. And I love the shot when he goes down, and all poor Claire can do is just watch. She can't do anything. And I love when he kind of pops back up and puts his hands over the tub. Again, another throwback to Psycho when Janet Leigh is slowly going down. I love that shit. So he pops up and does that.
Nerd.
But then we get this scene when this is, to me, the most excruciating and suspenseful and nerve-wracking scene when bathtub's filling up and she can't get out. She can't move. I get chills. I've seen this movie endless times. I can't get over it. I can't get over it.
I know. You know what happens, but it's still hard to get through. Yeah.
This is when you know that the suspense, this is a masterpiece of suspense, this movie, specifically this scene. So she's trying to move, and she's trying to pull the drain with her toes, and she finally is able to slam her like heel a little bit, and that does the trick. But then we don't even know that he's not on the floor. He crawled out of the room because you see the blood's dripping out from the room.
Like a ninja. Yeah.
So good.
Like army crawled, I guess.
So she gets out, and I know she has maybe a couple dumb moments. I don't think she does, but I love how she grabs the broken mirror piece so she can look out the door and see. That's smart. I would have never thought about that in her situation. I would have never thought to do that. So she can see in the hallway. But then, this is I can get this dumb moment when she goes to the steps and she sees him. She fucking screams. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Shut up. You're gonna wake him up. So she goes down, and this is again another great scene when she goes down the stairs and she knows that he has the keys to the car, and she's trying to grab it, but she can't. And
the phone. She's trying to grab the phone.
She's trying to grab the phone.
Pocket.
Oh yeah, and the keys, because the keys are in the fucking whatever
the bowl.
key. Yeah, the bowl, exactly.
I hate this scene.
Oh, I love this scene
She's
so
so
much.
stupid. I hate when characters. I know it's
love
very typical to build suspense, but it's like
it's scary.
just grab the phone. Like, stop being so slow
She's
about
like,
it. Like, just do one quick motion and run.
Is she
It's
still?
hooked on
Takes
it.
her
It's hooked
forever.
on something though. She can't. It's hooked on whatever. Like she's having issues getting it.
I think it's just because the weight. It's pinned underneath him.
Yeah,
so
he's
she's
face down.
trying to-
He's face down.
Yeah.
So
Also, is she still trying to get out of the drug
yes,
state?
100%.
Okay.
She's not fully like she's not mobile to the point where she can sprint. She's like
no.
she's like clumsy.
I would say she's pretty much 100% because they say the drug wears off in 3 to 5 minutes. So I feel like that 5-minute time.
I think once she got into the car, she was fully. But you can tell when she was like kind of like walking, she was like, "My old girl, don't fall."
Oh, that whole scene where she goes backwards onto the steps. I think she's gonna trip every time.
Yes,
she makes the step perfectly. I'm like, okay, she's got it. She's got it.
But I love when she grabs the phone and she gets the keys and she moves. His eye just opens. It's so eerie, so eerie. Again, what a great shot. So she gets into the car. Well, I mean, poor Cooper stays at the house, but whatever. So she gets into the car. Yeah. I mean, I get it. Adrenaline. She'll come back.
You wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't do that. I would take my dog. But she gets in the car and she drives away. But I love that she's looking in the rearview mirror, and we all know. But I love how it's shot where first you see the door swinging, and then you see the chair swinging. So I'm like, oh, you don't ever see him again. It's so smart. We know he's in that fucking boat. We know, but they don't show it. They don't show it, and they just see like the shoe is like falls from underneath when she's driving, and this comes into play.
Where'd the shoe come from? That was a weird choice for the director.
Yeah,
how did the shoe get in the boat? It was a weird.
I don't know, but did he have shoes on when he brought up? Did he have shoes on?
Oh, I thought that was the bloody shoe. Am I not?
Oh, I thought it was his shoe.
Remembering that correctly? Oh, okay. I thought it was the bloody shoe from earlier, the neighbor's shoe.
No, I don't think.
It looked like
I don't know.
Oh,
That's
okay.
interesting. Though,
it's just a regular shoe. Okay.
Maybe like we used all of our budget on the actors. Let's just use the same shoe. But this is when the scene comes into play where she's good. She has the number prepped, but she places it on the dashboard because you can't get reception. This is 2000. You can't get reception until you're halfway across the bridge. And I just love how once she gets reception, it dials, but then we get the flash of the lightning and there's nothing there. And then you get the flash again. He's behind her. It's a pickup truck. So he smashes to the pickup truck and she's trying to scream to the cop. She's like, I'm at the bridge. I'm at the bridge. And then we see Madison pop up, her ghostly figure pop up in the middle of the road. And that causes them to crash in the lake. And this scene is just, talk about woman empowerment at the end. But it's so good because I love how, whatever like from the boat like crashes into the car. A pole. I'm just gonna call it a pole. I don't know what the correct term is, but it goes down and we see the car that he put in the lake for Madison is below them, and it wakes her up, and she comes up evil and creepy, and she helps. I also love the scene where Spencer, he's so creepy the way he like pushes her head down to drown her. He's like shh. He pushes her down slowly. Again, Harrison Ford. I don't think he gets enough credit for this movie. He's really good. He's evil. But he does that, and then Madison comes to save her. And he's caught in like a seat. I don't know, he's caught in the car. He's trapped. So she holds him down. We get the catharsis of seeing him drown and die. And she escapes, obviously, Claire. And I do love, I don't know how you guys feel about this scene, what you take out of it, but after Madison kills Spencer, before she goes back down, she turns into like her true self, and I think that's because her spirit can finally be free. Justice has been served.
Yeah.
So she can go rest in peace. I love it. It might be corny to some people. I personally love it.
Well, I just think it's a full circle moment, so I like it too. And she does smile too. She's like, "Yeah, we got him."
Yeah, I fucked you up, man.
Yeah.
I love it. It could be corny to some people. I adore it.
I think it's confirmation.
Yeah.
Like there's no ambiguity that there was a ghost and there was a force and that was Madison. How did you feel about the whole ending sequence, Peen? Like the whole car chase sort of, and with the trailer, and go ahead.
I just think we could have ended in the house. That's my opinion. I wish that she got the satisfaction of killing him. herself. I don't really like.
Okay.
I just feel like it was just a lot of extra. I didn't like the chase scene in the car. I like an ending moment at the house with the puppy.
Okay. It's funny you say that because watching this movie, one of my it's a long movie. It's over 2 hours, 2 hours and 10 minutes, which is a pretty long movie for a thriller movie. But I don't mind the length because you're going on this journey with Claire. There's so many different, twists and turns, but the ending does feel a bit drawn out for me. I feel like it could have ended like 3 or 4 times and it keeps going, which is fine because it keeps going and it's still good. Like it never craps the bed, but I do kind of agree with you. I think it could have ended and wrapped up a little bit quicker. I do like the sequence itself though, like with the car. I do think that was cool. I actually, did you pick up on in that moment, Norman is accepting his fate. He wants to die with Claire because he knows he's trapped in the car. His leg is pinned, and when he does like the shush, and he puts her under, he's underwater too. So I think that's his way of saying like we're dying together.
I think he wants to get the satisfaction of killing her first, though.
Yeah, but I think he was accepting that he was dead too. I don't think he was going to try to escape.
Interesting. I think in the back of my head, he's like, I'll get out of this. I can get out of anything.
Really? Because he's pulling her under, but he's underwater too. So I think it was more of him being like, we're dying together.
I could see that too. But in the back of my head, I'm like, this guy's such an asshole. He thinks in his own conceited way that he's going to somehow get out of this and get away with everything.
Right.
Well, he knew he was pinned in the car, and he was so calm and methodical about it. It's almost like he accepted his fate. He just wanted Claire to accept that they're going to die together because they belong together, so they should die together. I don't know. I think that's how I looked at it.
That's interesting. I always looked at he's going to find a way to get out, and he would get out after he drowned her. Okay. But I could see both ways. And I do love how we end the movie. I know you. Just to comment on what you two said. Specifically Peen about how you feel like it was a little dragged on, and like Nolan, you said it's over 2 hours. I think I haven't talked about a nitpick yet. My only nitpick is that I think instead of this movie being just over 2 hours, it could have been just under 2 hours. But I wouldn't have trimmed anything from the third act. I may have trimmed a little bit of shit, like kind of in the beginning, where we're trying to get like just a little bit of trims in the beginning, maybe a little bit of the neighbor stuff, little bit of him at the office, a little bit. But I would not take 1 second away from the third act.
Wow, okay. Because I have the opposite. I
you both
like how the first couple acts are drawn out because, again, it's like you're going through this journey with Claire. I just think the ending was a little bit drawn out. And it's funny you say the neighbors.
Cutting out, like, again, I'm talking about cutting out a minute here, a minute there.
No, I know
what
you're saying.
About taking about all these scenes with the neighbors. Just little trims that get under 2 hours.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the neighbors. It's like they completely like are irrelevant in the ending of this. It would have been cool to see them kind of play a little minor role, whether like Mary helps her out at the end.
Exactly. I was going to say that.
Yeah.
But we just need Claire and Madison. But yeah, I do love how it ends when she's visiting Madison's grave. I think that's a powerful moment too. When Claire is visiting her grave and paying her respects. Like we did it. Like, justice was served for you. And that's how it ends.
Yeah.
Well, and it shows that the mother and the family got closure too.
Yes.
Right.
Because obviously after everything happened, they were able to recover the body and the car, and she got a proper burial and stuff. So that was pretty good closure there. Yeah.
I will say.
So you agree with? Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the poor daughter is gonna be fucked up.
Well, that's not her actual dad though. That's her stepdad.
Yeah. Yeah.
True, but
still, that's still fucked up.
Still. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention one of my favorite lines. Actually, there's a couple lines. There's a funny line and then a fucked up line that I wrote down. The fucked up line was when Norman, I think when he's carrying her into the tub, he's like he's like the silver lining is this will like bring me and so closer together. The daughter. I was like, that's fucked up. That is so.
I love that line. I love it because it's so sinister. Yeah, I love that line.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
But my favorite line of the whole movie, going back to when she finds out that he had an affair. Claire goes to him. You had an affair with a girl who tried to kill herself, and now there's a presence in our house. I don't know why. I just think that's so funny. The way it's delivered, it's fucking great.
So good. So that's What Lies Beneath.
Awesome. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Good job, Peen, for your first review. I think we did. We covered pretty much everything. Covered the themes and Norman's what he's going through and what his motives are. Do you have any other comments before we get into the polls and stuff? Like any other final thoughts?
Just my final thoughts are: I still like the ending. I just don't think it needed to be as dragged out. That's all. I was okay with it.
Yeah.
Just wish it were a little bit shorter.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the same boat as you.
Okay,
Awesome.
I don't, but yeah.
Okay, Aunt.
Yeah, me and Peen are vibing. We're vibing on screen too.
Yeah.
We're vibing on the end. Yeah, so we need to have her on more.
See?
All right, cool. So yeah, that's Lies Beneath. Let's get into our never split up moments. We will announce that Anthony somehow won last week. I don't know how, but he narrowly won. So thanks for voting. Thanks for, I guess voting for the wrong person, because I think we both agree that I should have won. But that's,
it was the obvious
the
never
point.
split up moment of the movie.
But I think people
points.
appreciate the creativity of some of our moments too, so that's cool to see. But you get to pick the order. I guess we'll do.
Yeah, I'll let our guest go first because
we'll do. Yeah, okay, cool.
All right, but first I need some clarification, because what exactly is a never split up moment? Like,
any dumb moment you think?
Well, let's Ant, why don't you go over in case we have new viewers too, like what this segment is about?
Okay, cool. So every episode after we cover a movie, Nolan and I, we each pick a never split up moment, which is pretty much what moment we think is a dumb moment in a movie, or a scene where, you're watching a horror movie and you're yelling at the screen like, what are you doing? Don't do that. Why are you doing this? Pretty much whatever moment we think that we would do differently, or we're like, why are you doing this in this moment? And then every episode, whoever wins, that person gets to go first. And that's how it works. So it's very basic. It's pretty much a dumb moment we think, happens in the movie. So we appreciate if someone has a different moment than us, let us know what your never split up moment is. If you don't want to vote for one of ours, comment what yours is. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. Anything that you think was dumb that happened in the movie, pretty much.
It could be anything too. It could be the bad guy. It doesn't have to be the protagonist.
Protagonist, antagonist. It could be something that doesn't have anything to do with the main plot. You just want to call out. It could be literally anything.
All right. Well, shit. I don't know. My never split up moment is just like, I was literally taking it for literal. Like, I didn't want the dog and her to get split up. Like, that was my thing.
Like she didn't leave with the dog at the end?
Yeah, I think she should have left with the puppy. But then again, he would have gotten in that.
He would have drowned. He would have been done.
So then,
yeah, true. Unless he was in the flatbed.
Yeah.
He could have swam ashore.
I don't know, guys. I need help. Stupid moment.
This movie's a weird one.
So there's
also,
no,
it's not a slasher movie, so it's kind of hard.
It's tough, but I have a few moments. So there's no moments where you're like yelling at the character to do something different. You kind of.
I wouldn't say to do something different. Just the only part that I was yelling at was the stupid bathtub scene, but she couldn't have done anything different. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. You guys go first.
So do you want to go with the dog?
Yeah, I'll go.
Or do you want to go last?
I'll go with the dog. Just go with the dog, and then you guys do the hard work.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead, Ant. You go.
I'm still brainstorming a little bit because mine are pretty stupid too. Because like I've been saying throughout the whole movie, I'm a protagonist guy. I always look at it through their lens, and I think for the most part, she's a pretty capable and smart lead. I might go with. Okay. I think I'm gonna go with one that is just random. I was gonna go with what she did after the dog went missing and she didn't try to find him.
Yeah.
But
you two with the dog.
I'll try to do something a little bit more to do with the plot of the movie. I'm gonna go with after she goes to Jody and Jody confesses to her that she knew. When Claire tells her she's going back to the house to confront Norman, I don't know why Jody didn't go with her to have her back. Like, she just left her friend hanging after she's in this clear state of almost paranoia. Like, so she didn't help her she didn't talk to her a year ago when Jody knew what was going on. And now again, she's leaving her to do this by herself again and go confront her, for lack of a better term, her monster. and she's not going with her to help her. So that's mine. Because I really don't want to say anything bad about Claire.
The only defense is I don't think Claire would let her come. I think Claire wanted to do that on her own.
But
so,
even if she followed her and like waited in the car, like just to make sure shit was going okay in the house, like do something. Don't just do nothing. That's my little blurb. Because again, I think my girl Claire, she held her own shit for the most part.
She did. I'm going to go with Claire, though. And
I knew it.
It's funny because it's an inconsequential moment, I guess, because it's in the beginning of the movie. I'm going to go with the fact that she never calls the cops on the neighbor.
Oh,
and it turns out the neighbor is innocent, but who knows? She could have found that out sooner and could have put pieces together sooner. So I'm going to go that she never trusts. And I understand the explanation. I think you guys did a good job of explaining why she didn't and how she's being gaslit. But in the moment watching that first act, I'm like, lady, like, you see the guy come home with plastic wrap. She goes missing. You try to go and talk to her. She's missing. You see the body bag. You see the bloody shoe. Like, there's so much evidence. Turns out to be circumstantial because it never actually happened.
Right.
And I kind of wish we got a little bit of an explanation behind that too. Like, where was Mary that whole time?
At her parents, right?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Did they explain that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it turned out to be not the case. But in the moment, I was like screaming at the TV, like, have some more conviction. Call the cops. Like, what are you doing?
I'm changing mine.
Claire at the end is cool though, so I can't nitpick her at the end. So
I do like how Nolan and I have different moments. All right, you go, Pete.
All right, so I am gonna nitpick Claire at the end. Sorry. Kind of, whenever, like at the climax of it. What we were talking about before, maybe she should have called the cops and not leave it up to him to call the cops. I think that was a dumb moment.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my second moment. I almost picked that too.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna go with Claire trusting him to call the cops instead of doing it herself.
Yes.
Well, I wouldn't even use the word trusting, giving him the opportunity, because she clearly didn't trust him to.
Right.
Yeah,
the opportunity. Right away.
Yeah.
Okay, and then mine's the whole Jody of it all, and yours is, her and the neighbors not calling the cops.
Of it all.
Because she really, at the end of the day, I thought she was a cool girl until the end when she really didn't, stand by her friend.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but yeah, not only did she confess this like secret, she then like just is like, all right, have fun.
Good luck, girl.
Shitty husband. Yeah.
Cool. Those are cool. I like those three moments. They kind of cover the whole aspect of the movie in some ways.
Yeah.
This is the most stressful part, though, that we're gonna get to now.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's get to our review scores. You've seen the podcast, so it's 1 out of 10.
10 being the highest.
10 being the highest.
I have no idea.
We all kind of give our criteria. It's going to be a little bit easier for her because now that we're in episode 23, we have all these other scores to factor in. I don't know if you think about this, Ant, but I think about it. It's like, I scored this movie this, but do I like it better than this movie? It's going to get like really... I know we talked about doing maybe like a re-score episode.
I think a couple of them might have changed a little bit.
Yeah,
I think I was almost because we vibe off each other too in these episodes. So I don't know. I just think that I have one or two movies that I definitely have a different score on.
And that's the beauty of movies too. You can like take little things out of them in different points of your life and stuff, and it always changes. Yeah.
But this is gonna.
So who wants to go first?
I
don't want to go first.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Just because it's my first movie with you guys, and I only had a couple gripes, and I don't think they were big. I would say an 8 out of 10. I'm never going to give, I don't think, a 10 out of 10 with any of the movies. So I'll say a solid 80%.
Okay.
Cool. 8 out of 10. Awesome.
Okay. Do you want me to go, Nolan, or you want to go? It's up to you.
You can go. Yeah, go ahead. I'll go last.
So, like I said, it's in my fucking yearbook, this movie. It's my favorite supernatural, like, horror mixed with suspense thriller of all time. It means a lot to me, and I forgot how much it did. Cause I literally watched it 3 times in the last week because I'm like, I fucking love this movie. Because I haven't seen it in a while, and I love going back to it. I think Michelle Pfeiffer is amazing. Harrison Ford's a creepy villain. The mystery is awesome. It's very Hitchcockian. I'm going to give it. This is an all-timer movie for me. It's a 9.6.
You do decimals?
9.6.
Yes.
8.
Yeah, we do the figure skating scores.
Mine's a 9.6. Because
Okay,
because it's
9.6.
not higher, obviously you can't get much higher, but I do think that they could have trimmed it to be just under 2 hours. That's the only gripe I have. And it's not even a gripe because I still love it as is. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really your only nitpick.
Literally, yeah.
You really didn't nitpick anything with the plot or anything. So 9.6, dude, that's like pretty much a perfect movie for you.
Yeah. It means a lot to me.
Awesome. It's a tough one. I wanted to go last because you know, we talked about this in the beginning, it's not my favorite subgenre, but it does everything so well, and I understand why it's a 9.6 for you, and why people who love these types of movies really put this at the top. I don't really have any major gripes other than it's just not my style.
Right.
So, and I don't want to knock it too much for that, but I have to be honest with myself. So I'm going to give this, and this is probably like the best score I'll give this type of movie. So this is going to be up there for me for these types of movies. I'm going to give it an 8.2.
Good.
8.2. Yeah.
Good. Awesome.
Which is really, really high.
Good.
That's going to be like the top end for like
these types of mysteries.
If I like this subgenre more, I could easily seeing this be a 9 for me. Because
Awesome.
it's so good. It's so cool. Yeah. All the different PTSD and the paranormal. Like I said, usually the paranormal kind of goes away and you find out that it's all the husband and stuff at the end, but the paranormal stays there throughout the movie, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, they don't abandon it. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
So I'm the lowest.
I think it also has to do with the fact that you're not one who tends to rewatch movies as
Correct.
often, so you don't have the same feelings as we do with these, which, you know,
Yeah,
that's fair.
I'm not a rewatcher.
You're a typical movie person. We're like hardcore, like not typical. You like movies more than some people.
Obviously, look at my wall.
Yeah.
You don't rewatch these movies like me. I'm rewatching fucking whatever for the 20,000th time.
Well, I don't do that. We talked about this. I don't do that a lot either. I'm not a huge rewatcher either. I don't like binge franchises the way you do over a weekend. So,
well, okay. Also, in my defense, I do feel like if I were allowed to watch these movies in my apartment,
you're not allowed to anymore.
I would be able to. I'm not allowed to.
Yeah.
And rewatchability is a huge factor in my ratings too, guys. So that if that, you know, gives you a little insight to some of my ratings.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think that maybe is my main reason I don't like that too, because the rewatchability for these types of movies, knowing everything, you can only watch it so many times before you kind of pick up on all the breadcrumbs and you kind of figure everything out. The reason this is at the top end is because of those performances, I think. Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer just fucking kill it. So, yeah. All right, awesome. Cool.
All right.
It was a great episode, guys. That is episode 23, right? I keep getting confused.
Yeah.
23. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at neversplituppod. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube and vote in the poll. Now we have 3 options because we got Peen in on this. So, Peen, your final was the call, right?
Correct.
The phone call?
Yes.
She switched? Okay.
And
cool.
Do you want to maybe give a hint of when you'll be back? What movie you'll be back for?
I have to give a hint.
Well, no, you can say it.
Just make it. Make the announcement.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do this a little bit later on. It won't be like right away, but
it'll be in a few months or something.
There's another movie that you want to come on for, so why don't you announce that?
So I definitely want to be on for The Exorcism of Emily Rose. That's another big movie. I think that's a part of both mine and my brother's lives. So I think I'd be good to hop on again.
Yes, and we'll filter more in throughout, after that too.
We haven't done an exorcism movie, have we, Ant?
Oh, this is also, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. This is also our first, I wanted to say this in the beginning, this is our first PG-13 horror movie.
Oh.
And this is the argument that goes towards horror movies don't have to be rated R. It's about the story and the atmosphere. You don't need blood and guts in a type of movie like this. I do also subscribe to the argument that slasher movies should always be rated R, so I will say that. Mm-hmm. But horror does not need to be R. You just need a good story and atmosphere. Look at how well, this movie did its job. You don't need, nonstop F-bombs and blood and sex. You just need a good story, and this succeeds at it. So PG-13 horror can be good, people. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, awesome. I think Krampus was PG-13
Oh, yeah,
too.
you're right. That was
Yeah,
also PG-13.
it's okay if you forgot about Krampus.
I
Not
did.
many people listen to that episode, unfortunately.
But
that's
that's
like one of
another
our
thing.
lower
Like,
ones.
Krampus
Yeah.
is awesome and it's PG-13. So again, like, don't
Yeah.
talk down to PG-13 horror people.
Yeah.
This is our second. You're right. This is our second. So like I said, we've
Yeah.
done mostly R-rated, which makes sense.
Yeah,
but
you're right.
It
That's
could
cool.
be PG-13's awesome too, people.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome. I don't think we have. So I'll make the announcement that we are taking a week off. So we'll see you guys back in 2 weeks. We don't have a movie picked out yet, but that's why it's important to follow our social media channels. So we'll make that announcement when we figure it out. It'll probably be another movie review, but we're looking at doing something special for our 25th episode.
Right.
So look out for that as well. We might do a cool episode. Maybe we'll do a revisit on our rankings or something cool like that. But definitely look out for that. And I think this went well, Ant. Having a guest on. Thank you, Peen, so much. Justyna, Peen, whatever you want to call her. Sorry if you get offended by that.
I've lived 28 years with it, so it's okay. But thank you.
Thank you so much. You did great. We can't wait to have more guests on. I know we have a couple more lined up. You guys have heard about my fiance Jackie. She wants to come on. My brother, who had a big influence on me, he'll probably come on. But yeah, this was great. So thanks, everyone, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.